What's up, everybody? What's up, MGTOW? So in this video, I'm going to be looking at some more globalist type stuff and see what's going on with the globalist and some kind of pertain to the CV thing, kind of. And I haven't seen anybody else cover this, so I thought it was kind of interesting. You know, I did some quote-unquote research. Basically, I was just sitting in my room clicking on links and stuff, and since I don't have a fan club, I actually had to type some of the things into the search bar myself. Yeah, I know, it sucks. But anyway, looking at this thing, basically, the first video is from the CEO of Illumina, which is a genome sequencing company, and the CEO is Francis deSouza, who's the guy who's talking now, and he's introducing Bill Gates for, I guess, the Spark 2021 conference. Now, let's just take a second and look at their logo, because I know a lot of people like to say, oh, people are crazy, I think it's the Illuminati and blah, 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 but, I mean, look at their logo. The company's name is Illumina, and their logo is a pyramid with like a little star or something on the top, just like on the dollar bill. Okay, so maybe it's just a coincidence that, you know, these guys are working with Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, and actually Francis deSouza was the founder of Flash Player and Flash whatever from the internet. So he's talking about what genomics means to the 21st century in the video before he introduces Bill Gates, and I just took a couple quotes from the video. So first he starts off by saying that genomics is going to be the defining narrative of the 21st century, and yet less than 1% of the world has had their genome sequenced. And he's saying that as if it's a bad thing, that they're not collecting data on everybody's genes. I mean, come on. We already know about the collecting data stuff. People are like, oh, collecting data is not that bad. And now you see what they do with the AI supercomputers and stuff with your data. So what do you think they're going to do with your genome data? It's going to be even worse. Or maybe you think it's going to be better. Who knows? Anyway. So then he goes on to say, there's a critical and urgent need to make genomics and precision medicine available to everyone. And basically how they do precision medicine is by taking your gene information and then making medicine that works specifically for you. Now, this is an interesting topic on its own because apparently there's some SJW type wokeism controversy going on with this because they're able to make medicines that cure certain genetic groups and not others, and now people are saying that that's racist. And I mean, yeah, if you can make a cure that only cures, like, say, black people or just white people or just Asian people, you should still make it. I mean, it's screwed up that everybody won't be able to use it, but it's not wrong to make a medicine that only helps certain people. I mean, almost most medicines are like that. It's not going to help everyone. So then he goes on to say, just like World War I effectively started the 21st century, World War I overturned the dominant structures of the 19th century and set up the central narrative of the 20th centuries. And then he gives this quote saying that, you know, soldiers rode in on horses and flew out on planes. So it's kind of interesting that he's saying that in the context of talking about genomics, because if you're talking about genomics, then what we rode in the war on is our bodies. So what are we going to be riding out on if it's not going to be the same thing? Then he goes on to talk about how his company was the company that was the first company to sequence the CV virus. So then he goes on to say, in the fall of 2019, Illumina worked with Chinese health authorities, and on January 10th, 2020, they published the sequence of the causative pathogen. So he's talking about CV19. And so this kind of supports a little bit what David Icke has been talking about, where he's saying that they don't have the actual CV, like they're not looking at the CV, they're just looking at a computer model of it. That's what he's been saying. And this guy is the CEO of the company that supposedly sequenced the CV virus. And he's saying, right here, he's saying, what's especially amazing is that Moderna and Pfizer BioNTech never had the live virus on site. So basically, he's supporting what David Icke's saying, that they don't even have it. They just have a computer model of it, and that's what they're working off of. They're just working off of a computer model that was built up by maybe like 4 or 5% of something, who knows what it was, and that's what they're looking at, and that's what they made the shots with, is just a computer model. They don't actually have laboratories with it in it, so they're not actually looking at it. So alright, so if we look at Illumina's Wikipedia page, there's just a little bit of information there. It's pretty much just your regular company. There's some controversies. They might have stolen some of their technology, maybe not, maybe so, but they settled out of court anyway. But it does say that they received over $100 million from Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. It doesn't say if $100 million each or if they each gave $50 million, but still, that's a lot of money now. So like I said before, the CEO co-founded Flash, and he's also on the board of Disney. So that's that guy. He's not really as big of a shot as Bill Gates, but he seems like he's kind of up there. So now, this second article is only tangentially linked to the first context or the first video where deSouza is talking about how genomics is going to be the future. And this article is called China's Gene Giant Harvests Data from Millions of Women. Now, the article is written by Reuters, and so it's going to have kind of like a Western slant to it. Obviously, they're not going to report on what our governments are doing in this field as well. They're just going to say, oh, China's doing some stuff and we should watch out for them. So anyway, took some quotes from that article too. And it says here that Reuters has found that BGI's prenatal test, one of the most popular in the world, is a source of genetic data for the company, which has worked with the Chinese military to improve population quality. The NIFTY, or non-invasive fetal trisomy test, is what they use, and at least 8 million women have taken the test. Now they're saying that the DNA collected from the prenatal test on women from outside China has also been stored in China's government-funded database. Now the article said that most of the tests that were outside of China were either in like kind of Southeast Asia or Europe, because they're not really allowed to operate in the United States, but we'll see that there's other companies doing the same thing in the United States. So here it says other companies selling such prenatal tests also reuse data for research, and the other tests are just called non-invasive prenatal tests. So I don't know, they don't put the T in there, so it's like a NIPI or something like that. So anyway, the Shenzhen-based BGI shot to global prominence last year after selling or donating millions of CV tests and gave sequencing labs outside of China. So they actually gave away labs, like full labs, for donation, because they're using it to collect everybody's data and then feed it into their supercomputers. For what reason? Well, we're going to find out in a second. BGI said this year it has built 80 CV labs in 30 countries with plans to repurpose the labs for reproductive health screening, meaning collecting women's DNA again. So here's where basically the United States is saying that they need to watch out for China because China's doing the same thing that they're doing and they don't want China to get ahead of them. So the Reuters examination also sheds new light on concerns expressed by a U.S. expert panel. The U.S. National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, led by former Google chief executive Eric Schmidt, the panel said in March that the United States should boost its own funding for its own research to counter China's efforts. So like I said before, obviously they're not going to tell you exactly what they're doing, but what China's doing with the research is that they're putting it in these huge computers, that are going to algorithmically figure out which genes are the best genes. And then the BGI company has already been exposed as working with the military trying to design super soldiers. So obviously, if the United States is going to counter that effort, they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be trying to put all the data from all these tests, these different genetic tests, into supercomputers and then create super soldiers or super people or whatever. So basically, just like everybody's been saying in the kind of conspiracy world, they just want to phase regular people out. And they think that this is the next stage of evolution because, they can. So they don't want regular people. So basically, like, if you're born as a regular person, they don't really care about that. They just want to collect your DNA and then create some new type of super person with it. So anyway, if we look at BGI's Wikipedia page, we can actually see that they bought 128 Illumina HiSeq 2000 gene sequencing machines from Illumina. So they actually bought a bunch of Illumina's machines, even though our government thinks that, the Chinese shouldn't get an advantage over us. The quote-unquote capitalist people are allowed to sell machines to them anyway, which should be government security or national security or whatever. But they're still allowed to make money. As long as you're super rich, you can trade with the quote-unquote enemy, but who cares, really, at this point? You can see they're all just working together. And they already have offices in America anyway, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They have one in Europe, in Copenhagen, Denmark. And then they also have one in Seattle and San Jose, London, and Hong Kong, Bangkok, Laos, Singapore, and Australia. And it says, and many others, because they have 30 or 80 labs, depending on which way you want to look at it. So we can see that this is part of a global thing. And it also says that in 2013, BGI reported that it had a relationship with 17 out of the 20 top global pharmaceutical companies. So, they're taking your DNA data, and sometimes they're taking it through, not secretive means, but they're not actually telling you that's why they're taking your DNA. And, there's questions of if they're getting DNA from the CV test as well. They're saying they're not, but these people say a lot of stuff that isn't true. It's just like the media, that they will lie. These are the same people that sell cigarettes. They used to say, cigarettes don't do anything to you. So, if you're going to believe what they say, good luck to you. But anyway, we can see that, it's just a big global rich guy club where they're taking advantage of everybody else and trying to advance themselves. And it's kind of like I was saying before with the information, obviously they're profiting off your information. So you should be able to sell it. If they're just taking your information and then using it for their profit, I don't know if it's ethical or not, but who cares? It's just business, right? So just to kind of finish it off, if you look on Illumina's website, again, the company that's called Illumina with the pyramid with the eye at the top, that's their logo. So they're not international communists or anything like that, no. Because actually there's no such thing as international communists. There's just super rich people trying to kind of screw everybody else over. But what it says on their website, basically it says that in these unprecedented times, there are no borders, no countries, mine or yours. So, it sounds like they're communists. For a second there, kind of does, because they're saying no borders, no countries, nothing's either mine or yours. What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know. But anyway, so there's my research, I looked up some stuff online. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask for donations or anything like that. So, have a good day and go MGTOW.